So because oh yes, and it is being recorded. So if anyone would not like to be recorded, sometimes we post these to our social media, and if anyone would not like to be uploaded, please just direct message us, and we'll ensure that your face and voice is not included in those posts. So just let us know. Um, so, yes, James and I are moderating today, and because there's a few new faces, it might be good just to go through the room and do an introduction, and maybe even the audience, if you'd like to just do a quick introduction, maybe your name, the lodge you're associated with, and when you sort of joined the TS, got interested in the TS as well. I mean, I'll go first. My name's Ellie. I'm associated with Canberra Group, and I've been part of the TS for less than a year actually. So I'm a little bit of a newcomer, but it's been very lovely and a lovely community here.
Cool. I'll go next. Now I'm James. I've been going to the TS since 2020. Only officially became a member last year. So, and from the Melbourne Lodge.
I'll go next, I guess. My name's Cloud, and I have been with TS probably for about 2 to 3 years now. And what was the other thing we have to say? Sorry.
Which
Where you from?
Oh, where I'm from, I said Melbourne Lodge. Yep. Which is where I met James, and we've carried on since then. And yeah, love it. So love the community, love the lessons, and I love the practice that we do. It's really good stuff.
nice.
Hi, my name's Calliope, also known as Kathy, from the Melbourne Lodge, and I joined, I think, was around 2020, and that's where I met James and Cloud, and I've been a member since this year. I was a member a few years ago, but I officially, became a member this year. And yeah, and I like to go to the astrology class there. So, and yeah, I like the people there as well. They're amazing.
Nice.
Hurini, and I'm out here in Canberra. My interest in TS, I guess, is quite multi-generational. I've been, back and forth over a long period of my time. And I'm hoping to get more into it, and I'm hoping to engage more with the community because it just seems very lovely and open and accepting. So,
Okay, so I guess that I'm next. Angelo, I'm based on Canberra. I have been in TS like for around 2 years, but I have been in many different groups since I was like a teen. And I just love doing like esotericism and mysticism and spirituality. And yeah, I'm originally from Colombia, South America, and have been here in Australia like for 16 years or so. So it has been a while, and yeah, that's me.
Great. And I'm Malik Tillman, and I'm the Perth member, a Perth representative. Been a member for about 2 years and love organizing these events with everyone. So, yeah, I just got a quick question. Can everyone see a timer?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Fantastic. Awesome.
And did the audience want to do a quick introduction? Leah, did you want to?
Yes, of course. So, hi everyone. My name is Leo. I'm from Sydney Lodge, Blavatsky Lodge, and I joined TS in 2022.
Oh, hi everyone. My name is Esther. I've been coming to the Melbourne Lodge for a little while now. So a little while meaning 2 to 3 months, because I'm in the process of moving to Australia as I got accepted to a school here. I'm originally from China, and I've spent a lot of years working as a translator in astrology and spiritual healing. So I've been following some courses in the American TS online. And when I came to Melbourne, the first thing I had in mind was to find out the TS here. So it's a great pleasure to be here and meet everyone.
Hi, hi guys, I'm Michael. I'm part of the Perth Lodge, and I originally got involved based on Alice Bailey's writings, believe it or not.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Francis, and I'm from the Singapore Lodge, and currently in Sydney with Leo. right? So we're partners. Yeah, so I've been a member for 5 years, I think. I think 5 years. Right, thanks.
And I'm Jerome, and I'm also associated with the Canberra group.
Perfect. Well, it is so lovely to have some new faces here today and a little bit of a new crowd. Um, Basically, James and I will be moderating, so we might get straight into it. I think most of you would have a copy of some of the questions and the rules as well, but I'll quickly sort of go over what the debate is connected to today. So basically, it is connected to the Theosophical Society, and so we've got the three objectives. Um, and James, did you want to do a quick rundown of the rules that we're going to go through today? We'll go through each question bit by bit, but did you want to explain?
So, yes, the topic we're going to be discussing and debating on is God. Um, it's an interesting topic because it's the diversity and the range of views that we all have is what makes the topic so engaging. And it's very interesting because it's ever so thought about statistically being one of the top reasons for war in our world. The idea of God and religion in itself. So yeah, it'd be interesting to have a friendly discussion and debate with some housekeeping rules. So we'll start off with a question, quite broad, and if anyone has a question or if anyone has a answer, raise their hand, and if they wish to speak, you have no longer than 2 minutes. But
Ooh.
it's flexible. If you have a really good point, then we'll keep you going, but 2 minutes ideal is the max. So try not to go longer than 2 minutes. Um, and yeah, if you go longer than 2 minutes and if you go off topic or you have too many points in one that can't be really replied to or argued against in a linear matter, then we will cut you off. Ellie and I will cut you off.
And yeah, if you wish to speak, you can just sort of raise your hand, reacting with a Zoom reaction, or just sort of like try to get our attention as well. Um, And we'll start off where we'll give everyone about a minute, so about 60 seconds, just to do an opening statement. So if you have any opening initial thoughts on this topic of God or on what you'd like to sort of touch on today regarding in relation to the questions.
Just a quick question.
Mm.
Are we doing an opening statement for every question? So like each of us gives a piece on every question and then we do the debate, or are we just going straight into it?
You can if you've got that prepared, Malik, and you'd like to touch on each question, or if you'd just like to do more of a general opening statement about your position in general in relation to God, you're more than welcome to do that as well. So yeah, just a quick opening.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, just a reminder not to take anything personal. That everyone is speaking from their own experience, the studies, and the spirit of the essence of this debate discussion is to encourage open sharing of different perspectives and nudge us closer to unity consciousness through mutual understanding, regardless of whatever differences arise in this world. So, yes, we can begin. Ellie, do you want to start off with the first question?
Yes, well, I think the opening statement, is there anyone itching to do the opening statement first? Otherwise, we can just start from Cloud and go go that way.
Oh boy, the pressure.
Just go, Cloud.
All right. Do I have the floor?
Yes, 60 seconds.
God. I mean, you're kind of you led in with the idea that God is equivalent to the war that goes around the world because of the difference of opinions and what everything kind of fights for. I guess it's good to keep those ground rules like steady, that we all respect each other throughout this conversation. And I love this topic because I've been exploring God all my life, really, and I found the most powerful way to get to know God is to look within, not outside of yourself. God has a prevalence to be, in my point of view and my understanding, an aspect of everything that we see, experience, touch, sense, dream, think about. It's all the mind and work of a God. that isn't a person per se, but is the entirety of all things combined. That includes us, it includes our perspectives as single beings and with our own perspectives, learning to, I guess we're learning and taking lessons out of life, and we're kind of going with the flow of it. And we're improvising, like God is improvising to create just to know itself. And it expresses itself, God, in all ways, through perfection, and then through all things good and evil, considered good and evil. Without evil, for example, there would be no knowledge of what is good, and there'd just be blandness in this universe. I
Okay,
guess that I'll leave it
we'll
there.
stop there. We'll stop there. Thank you. That
Yeah.
was perfect. Does anyone else want to say anything?
Yeah, I totally agree with what Cloud is saying. I've always every time I met a friend that was from, say, a Muslim background or a Buddhist background, I never got involved with it because I always thought that, it's best to, just keep that to yourself because we're all going through an experience, and I don't want to debate on, I've never read the Bible, so I can't really step in and say anything really. So but I do believe in God. I feel that he's close to us, or she, or whatever you want to say. And yeah, do go within, like as Cloud said, just go within, do your own self-healing, and go with the experience in life, and everyone is unique in their own way, and that we're here to learn and grow, and be more compassionate towards everyone, because we've all gone through the wars, let's say, past life or even this now today life. I think I feel like that forgiveness is very important. Forgiveness in yourself, forgiveness in others, and even the ones that have done wrong, like they probably didn't know that they were doing wrong. So I mean, it's like what Cloud said about the good and evil. So yeah, we're here to work together, and we all got our dark side. So learn to know what's wrong and right, and learn from that, or from the lessons, and keep growing from that.
Okay, lovely. Thank you, Calliope.
Yeah.
Nice one.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ellie?
I'm gonna give a opening. It's something I pre-wrote, so sorry if it sounds cold and unfeeling. Just when I was at work. So I just want to start with the definition of God. So I define it as a unifying force that sits outside of the material world that harmonizes the separatedness of the material world. So in other words, beyond. This God is what all of the ancient texts, pretty much all of the ancient texts say in their original form, and nothing more. It's unknowable and beyond. To ask what God can or cannot do is to misunderstand, for he doesn't do, or to ask what he looks like is also a misunderstanding because he doesn't appear. These concepts we use to refer to God are birthed from the material world and therefore are circular. When used as tools to determine something outside of the material, they cannot be used as tools to determine something outside of the material world. So, in my opinion, much of the debate on the nature of God are due to that misunderstanding. You cannot determine the nature of God the same way we cannot taste our own tongue. We cannot use instruments within a system to measure what sits out of them. So using this model, I believe, this definition of God, clarifies most of the problems on the nature of them. And yeah, that's my piece.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Malik. Harini.
Yeah, I completely agree with Malik, and my opening statement is quite similar to his in the sense that I truly believe that it's important to not assign adjectives to what God can be, for it limits the scope of what it can be perceived as. And I think it's really important to start off such debates with a clear understanding and a definition of what you believe in, so it's easy to, I guess, use it as a baseline. I guess, derive my definition of God from the Advaitic definition. I believe God is attribute free. It's formless. It transcends transcends space and causation. It exists as pure, unqualified consciousness beyond all phenomenal distinctions and activities. God cannot be described by the attributes that it has, but it is more defined as what it is not, as per the Advaitic definition of neti neti, or not this. So it's easier to define God as what it's not, as opposed to defining it as what it is. So I think for the rest of my discussion, I will be using this as a sort of like baseline to talk about the other questions.
Juicy. I love that.
Great. Thank you, Harini. Angelo, did you want to give an opening?
Yes, I think that God is a human creation. I think that we created God because we forgot who we are, and because we forgot who we are, so in that forgive in that when we forgot who we are, then we created duality. We created something that is good and something that is bad, something that is wise, something that is ignorant. And then in that emptiness of knowing who we are, then we start to look for something. We are looking for something. Everyone is looking for something. Some people find God in money. Some people find it on, like in all the different things that you can identify your consciousness. I think that once you go through all that process of forgiving who you are, and then going through all that duality and suffering, and gaining wisdom as well in that process, somehow then that can wake you up to realize who you really are. And when you realize who you really are, God doesn't exist anymore, because you realize that actually God is what everything, what it is, and it doesn't need to exist as God anymore. I think that God exists as long as we forgive about who we are, and as long as we are ignorant about our reality.
Perfect. Well, thank you all. I heard a wide range there, with some overlaps as well. So what I was hearing a little bit from this side was going within to know God. Then I was hearing as well that God can exist without. God can be seen in different ways. God is unknowable. Sometimes it's easier to describe what God is rather than what God is not, rather than what is. Yeah, a really wide range, and I'm keen to jump in this debate. Did you want to start off with the first question, James?
Yeah, I guess this can go to sort of what Harini was referring to. I think. So I typed into the chat. Does referring to God as a he rather than a gender neutral term change how people understand or relate to the divine? Does it make a difference if you call God a him? Because majority of the people do call God a him. So does this diminish the concept of God, or what do we think of this?
Sorry, can I
Just put our
respond
hands
to
up.
that?
How does it
Oh
work?
no, you go, Harini. Sorry, it's
Oh,
focused
no,
to
no, no,
me.
it's fine. Yeah, just how
Uh,
does this, do we do like a,
yeah, we should raise hand.
Oh yeah, that's right. Sorry.
So Harini, yep.
Okay, so I think that when I was talking about how God is attributeless and can't be described using adjectives, the prescribing masculinity to a figure that is unknowable is an attribute in and of itself. And it's not, and he's not just about masculinity, it's also personhood. When you are assigning personhood to God, I guess that concept of like treating God as like an extension of, humanness is quite a, Abrahamic sort of worldview of what God is. God, you are made in the image of God. You're supposed to be sort of alike in a sense. But I think it sort of defeats the purpose of what God can be. So when we call God he, we assume that it's a man, and we assume that it's a person with I guess like processes and internal works similar to that of man, which I think sort of I guess defeats the purpose of what the function of God is. So when we're talking about what God functions as in like a broader sense, it creates it transcends space and time. I think those attributes sort of limit it and its potential.
Mm.
Oyopi?
Yes. I was going to say, because I did mention she and he, but that just came out. But I I just feel like there's something there. I would just call it spiritual. But there are principles. So I believe that that all is mind and mind is mentalism. So I'm going by the Kabbalion principles, so the Hermetic principles. And I feel like that we connect with all the ancestors, and I really believe that that we're all one, and that like I feel like I connect with all from past mistakes, past doings and stuff like that. So that's why we go on this journey to like self-healing and the dark night of soul sort of thing. So I believe that it helps with that. So I don't know what to call it. I think we shouldn't call it him or she, but that just comes naturally, I suppose. But I believe it's something from within.
I'm sorry, very quickly, can you guys see the raised hand? Does it show that it's me or does it just pop up in the corner?
It pops up in the corner.
Okay, all right, that creates a lot of ambiguity.
Maybe you might have to do this
Yeah,
one.
physically do it.
Yeah,
Okay,
physical
no
hand would be
problem.
good.
No worries. Well, I do have a bit to opine on it. I feel like the whole conversation, like on is God a man or a woman or whatever, is kind of no one in the kind of debate or in the theological or philosophical space is talking about this. And it's kind of like a low blow, almost like a political, low resolution, low conversation, low energy kind of, talking point. Um, if you study even just entry level mythology, the masculinity of God has nothing to do with him. If you look in the Greek tradition, right, you have the father god of everything. They call him the father mother, Phanes, and he's androgynous. As well, I wanted to clarify this because I was thinking about this when I was writing my responses. Every time I use he, I'm only doing so because of the common understanding of God being a male. But I actually don't think as God is a male, it's beyond a male. So it is a good first thing to get into, actually, I think.
Do you think that when you say he, though, um, the people that are hearing it may not be understanding it from your point of view,
Um,
and, perceiving it as
uh,
a he in that
well, what are they basing their understanding of God from? If it's only from that I've said he, then that's not a very deep understanding. And so their opinion means nothing. But if it's based off of a textual or philosophical stance, then it holds more weight. If someone's opinion on what God is swayed by only by a pronoun, then their understanding of God is nothing.
Does anyone want to add or have anything different than what's already been said? Yes, Clout.
Well, I think the way that Malik might be, the way I understand what Malik is saying is that the word for God being he, the pronoun he, is kind of built into language, unfortunately. And over time, it's just become the norm reference, almost like, uh, and it does. And I think that it can't be sort of left at that level. My personal view, Malik, would be that if you wanted to like perhaps change the like that kind of narrative is to perhaps find a way to represent God, whether it's with or without pronoun, in the way that you see fit, and then make that be the change you want to see, as they say. And I think that the question is also loaded because the connotation of male perceived derives from the fact that we lived in patriarchy throughout all our like known Western worlds, and as far as what I've lived through as well, like it's just been like stomped into our brain that it's he, and he became first before woman became second, and I don't like it either. But um, man, the question, my answer to the question would simply be in line with the fact that it is an unknowable force when it comes to gender. Gender has pretty much no place in it within God. And I'd like to see what other people think about that as well.
Can I add something? Or hang on, I'm trying to see whether my hand is so.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
Kathy, go ahead.
Oh, yes. Because I mentioned the principles, like the seventh principle is gender, so that's relating to the feminine and masculine. So I think if we connect with we all have the feminine and masculine within all of us. Once we know how to center both energies and balance that, then I wouldn't call it a he or a she. We'll call it just a divine.
Great.
Yeah.
Harini, you'd like to respond?
Yeah,
Yes.
are we doing more rebuttals, or is that the?
You can do rebuttal, yes.
I think, like I mentioned earlier, I think it's yeah, I agree with Malik that it's quite surface level to talk about the gender of God. But I think what's more important is that by giving God a human pronoun, by saying they, he, she, we are sort of, I guess, equating God to be someone who is, I guess, in the realms of what we consider to be human, right? So we're almost like humanizing God, and I think that's like more of a deeper conversation to have. Why is it that we perceive God to be an extension of who we are as humans? Why do we view God through a human experience? Why cannot God be a force of nature? Why can it not be something that is phenomenal, something that is that exists unintentionally, without having to contemplate on it? So I think, yeah, so forcing personhood, I think, is a more important and a more, I guess, nuanced conversation on God, rather than gender. So the gender implies that it's a person, which I think is might not be a view that everyone shares. So
Mm.
Go
Malik,
Miller.
you want to go first and then we'll go Cloud and then Angela, I know you had something to say. So we'll go Malik, Cloud, Angela.
I feel like that encapsulated like my thesis is that we're imposing these human concepts. Like the level of thinking with regards to a god is so low, right? We're not talking about whether he is a man, whether he has long hair, like, toenails, or whatever, right? This is a completely like vacuous point, right? So it's not really it essentially it doesn't really matter. And so the question here framed is, does someone's understanding, is their understanding impacted by the gender of God? That's equivalent of saying, is someone's impacted by whether or not God is bald or has long hair? It's completely irrelevant. And if one's understanding of God does hinge upon something so superficial, then their understanding of God is inferior.
Yep. I believe that however we view God is perhaps a bit like there are people out there who have sworn by seeing and viewing or being in the presence of God, and in their own way, it's unique to almost everyone in some form. I've had my personal experience, and I don't melt it down to that exact thing. It's only that thing, that what I witnessed in my vision of God, which I can describe later. And the idea that, like, if we look at panpsychism, for example, it will describe a little bit better what I feel about the nature of God, is that where the common theme to like science and creation is that matter begets consciousness, but panpsychism goes to consciousness that begets matter. And so the force of the universe and all things is consciousness, and it is awareness. And you'll know through people experiencing ego death that nothing on the surface, nothing on the ego, nothing on your identity, who you are, what you are, where you're made from, matters when you lose it all. Through ego death, you become awareness, you become singularity, and you become one with the universe. That's the feeling compassion gives and like thrives in that sort of state. We know that love is a force, and I believe the consciousness and the love is a connected force. This is the driving engine behind the universe as it exists and as we know it. It is neither masculine, feminine, or binary or whatever in any sense, but it is also a duality of sorts that we come to understand from our personal viewpoints in life, where we go through in the lesson of it all, where like God, learning about God's self is the key to the reason it's being itself, to know itself. It has to create a mirror or an other. It has to have separation to understand from what it's looking at, who it is, what it is, and just a learning machine.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a follow-up question on that then.
Oh, hold on. 2 seconds, James. Angelo, did you want to say something? Because I know you haven't had a chance yet.
Look, I think that Cloud said it in in a
Yeah.
very good way. I
Really good.
really agree with what he was saying. I think that whatever connotation we give to God is a human attribute that we give to them, to him or to yeah, to him or to her. So because of that, then obviously we, like people put all their values and qualities on God, and even people don't realize of it. And I think that as far as you can go, like in regards to the perception that you have about God, is as far as you can get in regards to how you see yourself as well, and the way how you see reality as well. Um, I think that when people put so much, like hatred and pain and things like that to God, they are just reflecting their own selves on that projection that they are doing of God. So I think that there is like a limit where you project God in your own image, but you at the same time are saying that God is projecting you in their own image. So there is like how can I say, like something reciprocal there. But I think that God, in whatever sense God is, goes beyond whatever perception we have of ourselves.
Okay, great. And thanks, Angelo. So, all right, we're going to move on to the next question now. And James and I are going to be a little bit tough with time limits. So just keep in mind at about 60 seconds, I might chuck a clock up. And that's when you'll know you've hit 60 seconds. And then we'll let you, go for slightly longer. But then we might have to. Um,
So sorry, Ellie. Just before we move past it, Michael asked a really good question in the chat, and it'd be weird to bring it up at any other time.
oh,
Um,
oh,
so
yes, he did. Yeah, I saw this.
we'll
Yes.
just quickly address it. He's raising the point that many other religions, however, the Bible and every other religion in history, especially Hinduism, always assert there are multiple gods. Therefore, there are definitive slash or exclusively masculine and feminine gods. I just wanted to say that is true. There are masculine and feminine gods, but in almost all the pantheons, there is a like high, as he says in the comment, a highest god that is androgynous. So yeah, for the purpose of this conversation, I personally am going to be talking about the highest God for the philosophical kind of debate. I don't know if anyone else has any other intentions, but yeah.
And that is a good point. There could be multiple gods. We are speaking about God in a singular form.
Hmm.
So that is a really good point to touch on. Thank you, Michael. Did anyone want to do a quick response? And we're going to be a bit more rapid fire, so about 60 seconds. Anyone want to say anything to that before we move on?
Yeah, I'm keen to be more rapid fire.
Okay.
All right.
So I'm just going to bounce off Michael's text. Can God be understood through polytheistic traditions and through studying different types of gods with a little lowercase g?
I'm so sorry. Don't we have set questions?
Yes. Yes, I think we've gone slightly off topic.
Yes.
Stick to the set questions and then keep that
Yeah.
one in mind, James, for a bit of a backup.
Yeah, let's
So,
do additional ones just at the end.
Okay, we can do if God is all powerful and all good, how can evil exist?
Well, we need so can I
Kathy?
yeah, sorry to interrupt. Yes, I believe that there's a yin and yang. I think maybe the God could be just wanting to experience how we are living life. So like without a balance of good and evil, yin and yang, dark and night, light and day, and all that, like we wouldn't know like how to feel and feel pain and go through sorrow and go through, hardship and and also to find like love and peace and harmony and compassion and all that. So this is just a part of the human experience, and also to like be responsible for your own actions, like what you do is what you sow, sort of thing. So I really feel that without going through that, you wouldn't know how to feel for others, and that. So I think that's something that's through the journey that you need to find along the way. It's going within. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Cloud?
My opinion on that question is that God does not judge nor care what we get up to in the realm of good and evil, because good and evil is contextual, and it's also sequenced to change through time, and individuality, and it's just such a sort of a flimsy and fluid kind of concept, the idea of good and evil. Um, I believe it's a curious childlike mentality that God has, like that I can relate it to on earthly realms. It just wants to know what things are, what is, simply for the sake of ism. Like it's not, it doesn't, it will never judge you. It's all love. It's just, it doesn't matter. It's kind of weird. Like if people knew that or felt that way, it would be like, oh, it's a free for all. I can do whatever I want. It's not about that. So much as it's literally just a curious consciousness that is just learning, and that's all it is. And there's no judgments or care what we get up to.
No judgments from God. Yeah. Malik?
Yeah, so I'm just curious how you harmonize both. Morality is completely relative moral, and you can't just do anything you want. Because if you accept those two statements, you can do anything you want, right? Because objective morality completely fades away. If there isn't some sense of wrong and right, and if it's all fluid, then there isn't a hard line. There's no reason why I should be a good person.
Is that the response to what I said?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that we draw lines based off. I feel like it's been religion that's been a big player in that. So we refer to um, like religion, dogma, and doctrines to understand what society wants from us based off power systems built into controlling us, to make sure people behave in the way that they want. So those who are always in control were people like in the Western world, the church, beyond kings, queens, and all that. And I just feel like we've just made it up. Like we've determined for ourselves from those kinds of situations what is good, what is evil.
I understand,
And
but take away that component, take away religions, take away institutions and brainwashing, whatever. You just have like a baby or like a small village raised on, I don't know, some place, right? Objective morality still exists. There still is right and wrong, despite there being religions that say so.
ooh, I
Because I think there is. I think if they cut their heads off, I would consider that a bad thing.
okay, but if we're cutting whose head off, that's the question again.
Each
Like for
other's.
doing
But
what and for what?
let's say some egregious crime, horrible crimes, right? I think those wrongs are wrong for everyone, everywhere in the universe, no matter what. But in your position, it could be relatively not wrong. Like theoretically, it could be okay to cut someone else's head off.
Harini?
Yeah.
Sorry.
What?
I guess I'm responding to both Cloud and Malik. But I guess I'll start off with saying that I'll reach back into the definition of God that I had I guess presented initially about how God is free of all attributes. And Cloud's discussion about morality is very interesting because I agree with Cloud that morality is entirely subjective. Because, for example, we know like several Abrahamic faiths believe that homosexuality was, like an unforgivable sin. And I don't think that morality is objective across, all, populations, all kinds of people. It is something that's culturally learned. It's something that's discerned. So if you have like a baby who's just, who was just born, I'd be inclined to say that it would have no sense of morality, and it would learn morality from its surroundings and from the people who raise the baby. So yeah, and I think that God, coming back to the original argument, I think that God has little to do with what we consider to be moral. And in like historically speaking, God has been both merciful and evil. Like if you think about like a lot of like the Aztec gods, they feared God. God was the evil force. Like I think that a lot of people's perception of God being good is a relatively new phenomenon that has existed for like less than, like 600, 700 years. But historically speaking, God is just powerful and not good or evil. The notions of good or evil are defined by humans and human experience.
Yeah.
Okay, so to be clear, you both agree that morality is completely relative and it has no basis for anything at all, and that all good and bad that we do is just human stuff that's made up.
Correct. I feel it's
Yeah.
built into us through nature and nurture. And
So hold on, Cloud, 2 seconds. So Cloud, Kathy, and Harini agree that morality is relative. Malik thinks that there is some objectivity there. Is that true, Malik?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And then Angelo, where is your stance on this?
Well, it's a difficult one. I think that there are more like universal principles in morality, but there are many of those principles that then they become distorted by culture, or like fit into specific purposes. I think that when you do something, let's say for example that you bully someone, somehow you feel that that's not right in your heart, and the question is, you feel that because you learned that to treat someone bad is bad, or you feel it just because you are kind enough to feel yourself on the another person and to feel that that's you wouldn't like someone to do that to yourself. I think that morality in my point of view is morality is like real morality to the extent when you can put yourself on someone else and not do to that person what you don't want to be done to yourself. I think that the rest is just an invention of humanity.
I got a quick one for that. If we look at the animal kingdom, where's the morality there? I mean, ripping off heads to eat something is one of the most basic sort of features of it all, isn't it?
Yeah. Is a naturalist
sorry.
fallacy.
Okay, so maybe Malik, then Kathy, then Harini.
Yeah, I just have a question. So there's no good argument that or there's no basis to genocide being wrong at all, other than it's just a human, we just got together and decided that genocide was not a good thing.
It's subjective. It's entirely subjective. Like if you ask someone who lives in, Israel right now, they'd probably say that, oh, it's completely justified,
Yeah, but
we
that's
would,
an objective claim,
right?
not a subjective one. If they say it's justified and they're actually justifying
It's
it,
subjective
yeah,
to their experiences. They don't perceive it to be something that's wrong because they've got a justification for
no,
it.
they'd have an
It
ideal.
depends on context, right?
No, what I'm saying is they'd have an ideal or a set morality that they're appealing to,
I
right?
don't I don't believe in a set morality, but I'm more inclined to believe in a common shared like empathetic worldview, which probably exists because of the fact that humans are social animals and we've got to like stick out for one another. So we've developed empathy, but I think morality is something that is entirely subjective,
Yeah,
and
just respond to your
morality
example. Your
perhaps
example was
morality is influenced by empathy and built upon those basis points.
yeah,
Okay.
I'm just using your
Okay.
example. So your example was the Israeli people. So in their world, right, justifying genocide is an appeal is in accordance with their objective framework that they're working with, right?
Not
But
objective, subjective.
objective.
Subjective.
No, no,
Like
no. It's them. So they have an objective framework that they're working with. In their head, they believe it's objective, right?
yeah, but that doesn't make it objective in like a, grand,
Yeah, objective
like
is
a
for
sort of
all.
like out
So what
view.
we're doing right now, right? Obviously, we don't know whether morality is objective or subjective. Nobody knows that. Nobody at all. All we can do is kind of argue from a place of subjectivity or argue from a place of objectivity. I'm saying the Israelis are arguing from a place of objectivity. Everyone else here seems to be arguing from a place of subjectivity, that all morality is purely subjective.
Yeah, but the fact that, someone can argue from the place of objectivity within their own heads is inherently subjective.
No, it
Yeah.
If
isn't,
you can have
because
multiple versions of objectivity, that's subjectivity,
no,
right?
this enters the problem of epistemology. No one can make a claim about whether the universe is or isn't objective. No one has that information at all.
Yeah, but you can in the sense of what is moral. No, you can in the sense of what is empathetic and what is correct, right? So that depends
No,
on
no, no,
on what.
no. Philosophically, you cannot. It's an impossible statement. We cannot say certainly whether I believe morality is objective, but I'm not going to say definitively it is because no one has that information. It's an epistemological impossibility,
Yeah, I don't
right?
think
So
I'm saying it as like as something that exists, but I guess I'm sort of like articulating that this is where my belief system comes from.
that's
From
okay. That's okay, but that's
Yeah.
what we're debating. We're not debating about whether or not morality is objective or not, because it's impossible to know. But whether or not it's good or not is what we're debating.
Can can
Uh,
I bring Kathy in here? Because I can see that Kathy's been waiting very patiently. So, Kathy, did you want to speak?
Yeah, I was going to say yes. Thank you, Elia. Is it Ellie? Yes. I was going to mention like every cause has an effect. I'm going to go back to the Hermetic principles because every cause that you will have an effect. Every effect will have its cause. So whatever we are thinking or intending to do is our cause. So we are responsible for our own actions. So whatever happens in the world is that cause, and then sometimes you got to find out what that root of that cause is to undo the cause.
And so, can I just ask quickly, Kathy, would you say that in your view, because I know before you were sort of talking a little bit about relativity opposed to objectivity, do you see karma in that at all? Because often we talk about karma as a cause and effect. So, with everyone here today, do you sort of see karma if there is no objectivity and there's just relativity, then therefore could there be such thing as karma? And what's your view on that?
Yeah, I feel that like with our karma we can undo our karma by like, as you know, that as Jesus says, repenting and repent and do your own healing and forgiveness. And well, I think once you learn the lessons, you will clear all your karma. But the more you're always stuck in karma, you're always going to be stuck in that wheel. So yeah, I just feel like try not to focus too much on karma, but as long as you enjoy the lessons, you keep you'll grow as a person and become more better and then more aligned with the natural laws.
Cloud, you got something to say?
Oh, I'll resist my point for a moment.
Malik.
Yeah, karma is such a good example, right? Because if you cannot believe in karma and subjective morality at the same time, it's impossible, right? So that's one system that we have that relies upon objective morality. Every single system of ethics that we have relies upon the idea of objective morality. So I'll ask the people here. Let's say some egregious crime, right? There's an innocent baby, and then I don't know, it gets killed by someone. Is there ever a world in which it's okay for you to kill an innocent baby for no reason?
Sparta.
Okay.
A perfect example of a civilization that thought that it was actually morally correct to not let a baby that was by defect of any kind persist in their environment, in their society, sorry, because it would be an unfair thing to do to a being if it was deformed, to let it live out a deformed life. They built around that morality so close to their like hearts and minds and souls that they threw babies off a cliff for it.
I agree. So subjective morality is pretty bad, isn't it?
We look back at that and think it's bad, but back then it
Is
was
it?
all G.
Is it? No, I'm
No,
asking
I
you
think that
now.
by
No, no,
debating,
I'm so
sorry.
sorry. I think my statement was misinterpreted. I'm asking everyone now, do we determine that it is ever okay for innocent babies to be killed?
Well, we have to think about like what happened in the ancient times, and the language there was probably not even language. It was just like symbols and all that. So, and like the type of communication they had back then, and how life was as well in the ancient times. So we have to go a bit more further to find out the real
Sorry, it's not
interpretation.
about the past. It's not about the past.
Yeah,
It's
but I'm
even
bringing it into the present now. Like, we've got to like do a little bit more education on that, so you can find out like a little bit more knowledge on like what that is today.
So, in theory, is it ever okay for anyone? Is there ever an instance for you with your morality now that killing an innocent baby for no reason is justified?
I would not do that personally, no.
I think that I can come up with a theory that would like make it a plausible reason to kill a baby that is innocent. Yeah. It's not to say that it's like going to be anything that's going to please or satisfy anyone in any kind of moral way,
Mhm.
nor myself.
But
But
that's the
it's like
question.
thinking of the question like, do you believe in euthanasia for people who are at the end of their lives just suffering and pain and going through that and they just want to die but they can't? Euthanasia is the kind of the option that they want. We could turn that wheel back all the way to infancy and be like, if this child is so far demented or like in such a vegetative state that all it's going to be doing is pain, screaming, suffering its entire life, would
Okay.
you
A
not
healthy
kill the
baby then.
child?
A healthy
Okay,
baby.
healthy baby. No, healthy baby.
Is it okay if I just say that it feels a little like, circle sort of argument when we're talking about morality and God, rather than, I guess, talking about the way that it, sort of intersects with how we perceive God, how different views of morality, whether or not if it's, a subjective or objective, influences your views on what you believe God to be. And I think that's like a more, I guess, productive argument to have.
So
Yeah.
the debate is the nature of God, not the nature of the perceptions of God. So the problem of evil in philosophy is the single most debated uh, question as to the nature of God that we have. And the reason why is because the question is, where does morality come from? So if there is no God, the question is, where does morality come from? And therefore, if people believe in morality but they don't believe in God, that's a massive problem for their theological understanding. So it's a very important question, but I still need an answer. When is it okay to kill an innocent, healthy baby? Because if you don't have an answer for that, then you're
It's
an
not
objective.
okay. It's not okay to
That's
kill.
that's fine. That
I
means you
would
believe
say
in
that.
objective morality.
Okay. I think what we might do is I might open it up to Angelo if he would like to add, and then what we might do is we might move on to the question of what would constitute sufficient evidence for God or against God, and that could potentially tie into your personal experiences. It could tie to an objective lens. So Angelo, did you want to have the last word in
No,
this?
I am with Kathy. I think that is not okay to do it.
Yeah.
I have
Okay, great.
the same
Thank
view,
you.
and I also believe in karma, as you were saying, Kathy. You know, like you can kill the baby, but then you will be killed as well. You will be denied the opportunity to that person who killed that baby will have suffer the same consequence later
Yes.
on.
Sorry, can I conclude just so I'm not the guy ending on the baby killing point about what that is about?
Yes.
So, if you believe that there is no good justification ever for killing an innocent healthy baby, that means you're an objective moralist. It means you believe in objective morality. If you believe in karma, it means you believe in objective morality, right? Very few people, very few philosophers believe in a purely subjective morality. It's a very hard position to defend because as soon as you hold that position, the first question everyone asks is, okay, would you kill a baby for no reason? Everyone goes, well, no. It's like, why? Because you believe in objective morality. So that's the reason why I brought that up as an example.
Okay.
I think it's
I,
a bit,
I,
I mean, I guess it's kind of like counterproductive to talk about, like philosophy bro definitions of what morality consists of, instead of, I guess talking about how it affects one's worldview. And the nature of God isn't objective. It is one that is perceived differently by different people, as, established at the beginning of the debate. So yeah, so again, just to also clarify, I'm not a believer in karma, and I do think that there are instances in which killing a baby is completely rational. For example, I would 100% kill Hitler as a baby, and I think that's something that a lot of people would agree with. So
Okay, so sorry, I need to respond to that because this very conversation is quite literally the substance of worldview. So it isn't a
yeah, I know it's
philosophy
a
group,
green
but it is
conversation. Yeah.
100% the framework that we're working with, right?
You're kind of making a straw man argument from the start, though, because you're saying if there was no sense in doing something, why would you do it? And that's the question of morality. That's why I think it's a bit of a awkward asking of that about morality, whether it's subjective or not. I hear what you're saying. I do agree. I do agree with what you're trying to get to. I'm just playing devil's advocate a bit. But
Yeah.
if
So
you
how's
make
it a straw man? I don't get that
so
part.
the straw man argument is that you're first bracing up the question by saying, like, killing a baby if it was innocent. So innocence, and if there was no reason to do it, is already putting in that into your mind that it is no purpose to kill something, right? So would you kill it or not? So it's kind of like saying that the question itself is kind of answering itself at the same time. Of course not. It doesn't make any sense logically. Logical beings don't have to be moral either, and we can say no without having to make a moral deal about it.
You're
Either
setting
either
up the
way,
question in a way that it can only be answered in one
No,
particular
it
way,
isn't. That's
which
no,
is
no, no. That's how
inherently a straw man.
untenable.
The way
No,
you
it's
the
not a
way you
straw man
phrase it
because
is intentionally set up that way so
no, it
that you can
isn't
only.
because
Okay,
that is directly
I'm
what.
just
Hold
finding
up.
it a little bit tricky to follow along because people are starting to talk over the top of each other, so I can't hear anyone.
Okay,
So
can I
what we
clear
might
something up because I got
No,
accused
no,
of
you can't. We're going to
yeah.
move
Eh,
on. So,
well done, Ellie.
um,
I'm
with
proud of you, Ellie.
the next question can actually be tied to a little bit of this argument because I love how passionate everyone's getting into this. So I put it up in the chat. What would constitute sufficient evidence for or against God? And you can take that a little bit. I know we're talking about karma before. I know we're talking about objective and subjective morality. So is there something to kind of step out of your own worldview for you, Malik? Is there something that would prove to you that there is such thing as subjectivity, that there is no such thing as God? For the others, is there something that you can think of that would make you go the other side of the argument? If is there a piece of evidence that could exist that would make you believe in an objective morality? So just to kind of make your brains think of the other side, which can be fun sometimes.
No, sorry, there's two questions intertwined with each other there. Because yeah, there was the one about how would I change my mind for the other position to agree that subjectivity existed. Um, so my problem is that if you buy into subjectivity, you have massive problems that you have to answer, right? And this is the bare fact. If you believe in subjective morality, right? Or if you believe that not killing a baby, for example, I'm just using the example again, right? Killing a baby is wrong. You necessarily believe in objective morality. There's no other way around it. No one in the corpus of philosophy has ever argued anything other than that, right? And that is a really hard thing for me to rationalize. So it forces me to do one of two things: have a cognitive dissonance in which I say I believe something here, but the way I live is different, or I have an absolute standard for everything. So if I believe that there is objective morality in some cases, I have to believe it in everything, right? So that's the split decision I'm forced to do, and I opt for the decision of there's a consistent morality throughout everything instead of me holding two separate ways of being where I'm kind of saying something here and I'm acting in a different way.
Yeah, no, that's a really good clarifying about your position, Malik. But what I'm asking you to do is there
Yeah,
something
so yes, sorry,
that would
sorry. This
prove
that
the
yeah,
other side?
sorry,
Yes.
I left something out. So what would do that? What would convince me of that if it was definitively proven that the worst possible and most egregious things in this world were not bad at all, and God, for example, would be fine with them. So Hitler, fine, everything he did is okay. If that gets put forth to me in a very convincing way, or I get a vision from God in which He shows me that even the worst crimes are just fine, then I'd be in moral
So that's
relative.
like a personal experience. If you received like a vision
Mhm.
personally
Yeah,
from
what I
God.
said prior, yeah, what I said prior answered that. So what I'm saying is, I would need proof that the worst crimes are not bad. That's what would
Yeah,
convince me. Yeah.
sometimes I feel like, sorry, sometimes I
the
feel like, Evelyn, you
category.
don't need proof, you just need to go within, and everything's from within. And if you're just looking outside of yourself, then you're not going to find the answers. I feel, in my point of view.
So going back within, Harini, did you have something to say? I saw your hand.
Yeah, so just about sorry, you were talking about sorry, I just blanked for a second. Yeah, so you were talking about okay, never mind. I'll come back to it in a second.
Yeah,
I just
come
blanked.
back. Yeah, no worries. Did anyone else want to say something?
Probably, like in regards to what Malik is saying, it's like subjectivity can be real. Why subjectivity can be real? What you are putting like subjectivity is not real and objectivity is real. Whereas subjectivity can be real for the person who is believing whatever they are believing. But you are doing it like in absolutes. Like
are you asking me?
objectivity, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm asking you.
Subjectivity and
What,
objectivity can't exist at the same time. They're direct opposites. It's
why
like
why
X and
no? Why no? It could be
it's like
why
saying
no?
it's like
Why
saying
no?
X. Yeah, so it's like saying that X equals 1 and X equals 0. That they completely do not work together at all.
It'd be more
I
like
think
saying
that we live
one and
we
one
live
equals
in a
X.
world where you have the two of them living together.
Sorry, it was a bit of mishmash there. What was that?
But I think that we live in a world where subjectivity is objective at the same time, and it just moves. What you think is objective is coming from subjectivity anyway.
Yeah, that's a very that's probably the most mature perspective is that we act in a way that synthesizes both objectivity and subjectivity. But the issue is that when we say act subjectively, we're basing it off of an objective framework. And when we act objectively, you could argue that that person's just subjective. So I know what you mean, but it doesn't get to the actual root of the problem about is morality subjective or objective, regardless of humans, right? So take humans out of it, just in general, like in a generality, right? Those two positions it has to be one or the other, not two.
I'd
And
really like to, I'll go to you guys in a sec. I'd just really like to read Michael's response to this question. Here's proof of subjective morality, according to Michael, interacting with objective morality. So both killing, if in self-defense, is not karmically condemning as murder is. Both are killing. One's intentions also can save one from being karmically condemned. So here we're getting really into intent and action. So the action of something can be the same. Someone gets killed, but the intent in which you kill someone, that's where it differs. And I think there is a thing in society where we do forgive people who act with good intent and it ends up in not so good situation, than someone who does something in bad intent, and ends up in the same situation. Um, Harini, your hand was up, and then Angela, I knew you had something to say, and then Kathy.
Yeah, sorry, I lost my chain of thought because I was gonna reply to Malik, but then Kathy had some really beautiful points that I was taken away by. So when you were talking about the proof that you would need from God in order to believe that, I guess he exists as like, evidence of his existence would be for you to be assured by God that something that is objectively not fine is fine, right? And I think that depends entirely upon what your personal definition of fine is. As I established earlier, that I think those personal definitions vary from person to person. I mean, sure, I know that you believe that those personal definitions are, there's at least like a certain percentage of it that applies to all people, across all time and objectively, but I don't agree with that. And I think that the idea that like a transcendental entity that does not interact specifically with you as a person or specifically with certain entities, with certain, like, I guess, like living, ephemeral beings is quite, I guess it's quite egotistical to believe that, something that exists independent of who you are as a person is going to come down to you and convince you that something that is objectively not fine is fine. And it is, and a lot of what Hinduism and Buddhism sort of, I guess, professes is that God exists independently of who we are and what actions that we engage in on like a day-to-day basis. I think Cloud mentioned this earlier. God doesn't really care about what the intricacies and like mundanities of everyday life is. But for me, it's sort of like a force that exists without intention. It exists without, wanting to do things. God doesn't want to inflict good upon you, doesn't want to inflict evil upon you, but sort of it's just like a force that acts randomly and that acts without intent, which is what makes it God and separate from what is human.
Very interesting line of argument. Kathy, you next, and then Angela.
Yes, you mentioned the intent. So, like, if we're thinking of a thought and then we put an intent into it, then that's an action. And in every action is a cause, pretty much, I would say. So whatever you are intending to do is you're going to probably, reap or suffer from that yourself until you find out what the balance in that is in within yourself. So find peace within yourself, if that makes any sense.
Yep. So sort of going back to that cause and effect karma
Yeah,
aspect, going within.
I wouldn't say it's like karma, because Harini said before, like I try not to put too much focus on karma, because the more you do, you stay stuck in that wheel. And that's what Dolores Cannon mentioned. I was watching one of her videos about that, and you can't know like what you've done wrong in the past life, let's just say. And then the more thought you put into that, the more you're actually causing that to happen. So I feel like that, whatever you do in your life, just appreciate it, good or bad, but learn from it. I think lessons are very important.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Can I just pose a question in relation to the topic as well? It might clear up some stuff, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, in a universe where you are the only thing that exists, can morality exist? So I would suppose that my question is also asking, is it true that morality only exists when there's more than one person involved in the scenario? Because we're basing it off what it does to other, right? And then if the force of God is an entity that exists outside of our realm, what does it mean to be moral in God's world if it's not ours? So it's tied into all things. If God is in our world as one of us, or as all of us, or as all things, then we're also kind of making the point that God is immoral as just as much as we are, and that it kind of makes no sense. So I just want to ask everyone just to openly, like, if there is only you in the universe, if there's only one thing that's you and nothing else exists, and this is a very bare universe, where does morality come into that world, and what is morality in that sense? So does it even matter? Like, personally, I don't know. It's a moot point, yeah, but like it kind of puts perspective on this idea that it's a creation of the human being, that morality has a factor into anything that's got to do with God. And I think we're sort of also getting a little bit away from God by really reeling back onto this subject again, unfortunately. But I'm trying to make that connection back with God. So, yeah, can someone answer that for me?
So
Yeah.
sort of seeing God as an all-encompassing, that everything is God, even the bad.
Yeah, if we choose to believe that, then morality doesn't make no sense anyway, because God is expressing only to express itself. So it's very it's not apathetic, it's just that it's indifferent, and it's like it can't judge itself so much as as a singular person would do something that's heinous, but it's only that one person doing it in a world that exists on its own. So what I'm
Okay.
trying to say
Yep.
is, oh, sorry, yeah.
Yep. Sorry, Cloud, to cut you off.
That's right.
Yes. All right, Malik, I saw you put your hand up.
Yep. We don't live in a world in which there's only God and no other agents. So it's a hypothetical to a situation that we're not in.
That's what a hypothetical is.
Yeah, but why? When it has nothing to do, it's a completely vacuous hypothetical.
No, because it reinforces objectivity. So if you have empathy, regardless of whether or not people are around you, that's when it makes it objective, right? So if it exists as like a fact of the human being, of the human condition, that's when it's objective. When you, as a baby, the second you're born, you're inherently embedded with
Okay.
morality, embedded
But
with.
here's a question. So let's say you remove all planets, stars, and anything in the universe. Does gravity exist if there's nothing there to feel the
No,
gravity?
no, it doesn't.
Do you
Ah,
exist?
okay.
Doesn't exist.
So, all right.
Because that's scientific. It's scientifically proven that gravity is like it's a causation of mass, right? So it is like it
Not
is.
necessarily. No, it's not
That's
proven.
no. I think that gravity doesn't exist without anything. Like
We
there's
have no
nothing.
idea what gravity is, so we wouldn't know that at all. But yeah. So this is
Yeah,
what's called the philosophy.
just keep the arguments not assumptions. So in that, what you just said, Malik, there was an assumption that Harini didn't know. So just respond just to the argument
Yeah,
rather
I
than.
made an assumption. No, the assumption was that gravity, that we know how gravity works. We don't know how
It's like
gravity
year
works.
11 physics, so we know how gravity works. We know at least what it's like a factor
You
of.
gravity is the most non-understood concept in all of
You're
science. Are
speaking
you
in a lot
kidding
of
me?
absolutes. Like I think from the beginning of the
All right,
debate,
guys,
you end up,
guys.
Okay, I
you
think
assert your personal
Okay,
views.
wait.
That
okay, I
I think
think
that's a
I
bit
think
not
we're gonna
so
go back to
objective.
the nature of where we're really trying to be. And I love the passion, but I do agree that it is getting a little bit, too much. I don't think it's really in the spirit of what we're trying to cultivate here, in these workshops. I'd really like to bring in Angelo. Angelo, do you have something to say? And I think what happened here is we drifted into one of the topics about science and God, and there has sort of been this thing throughout time where present day people often will use science as an argument against God. And did you have anything to say? Can science and God exist at the same time? Did you have anything to say in Cloud's argument? What are your thoughts here?
Yes, look, uh, for me, yeah, God is a force, but obviously God was created by our, like perception of reality at the same time. So because God is a force, I just see God everywhere. Like for me, like the need to have evidence for God. To be honest, it is not needed in my case. I think that God exists everywhere, no as a concept, just as a God, just as a force, sorry, as something that I can see, like even matter itself. I think that matter itself is God as well, because it's a force. The clouds, the energy, myself, my body, like for me, yeah, like that's God. But I don't like to say that that's God, because sometimes people have these concepts about God. And sometimes I think that, like to define God is better not to define it, because God just is what it is. And yeah, that's the way. So for me, like that argument whether there is evidence for God, for whether God exists or no, it exists for someone who has this duality, who perceives itself out of God. Personally, my path, spiritually speaking, is to find God everywhere as a force. So, for me, the argument really, I mean, obviously it exists, but in the way how I see it, if you just see it from consciousness, God, it is what it is. Uh, I have another point. Like I would like to ask you as a question to Cloud, because I think that like the scenario that he was putting was quite interesting. Like to conceive everything as unity, and if everything is just one where morality exists. But I want to drop the morality question, and for me, it's more, if that's the case, like if everything is just the same consciousness, why we are here? You know what I mean? Like if God knows everything, is all powerful, so it must contain all experience as well. So how is said that God then has the need to project itself to be here in multiple bodies, having this experience? Is at the end he is all powerful. So why we have to learn what God has to learn this experience?
And you're asking me that question,
Yes, I
Zara?
am asking you that
Yeah,
question.
sure. I'd love to answer that. Okay, so I believe, in my view, and the way I've kind of understood God's nature of, if he is all powerful, all knowing, why bother with the things that go on in our lives, right? And
Yeah.
I believe it's God's mercy and mercy unto God's self to remove parts of God and instill it into beings such as ourselves that have no idea we are God, and forget that moment. And the lesson is not so much about what you need to learn in life, it's what you need to remember. You wake up and you start remembering throughout life as you go along that, oh man, like I'm an entity that's part of this godness. And this is a beautiful thing to realize, that you are not alone, but you're also one and everything. So it's creating beautiful moments for little beings like us, comparatively to the big source of God, as the consciousness and the big sort of thing in the universe, right? But I just think that it's an act of kindness, love, and mercy to create something that doesn't know how beautiful it is, and it's learning slowly that it is a beautiful creature, and part of a world that does care and does love. And God's creation of separation from self is a need for God's self to soothe God's self in other ways. By if you were the only thing in the universe and you'd be lonely forever, you'd create something being all powerful that is something that you can look at and that looks back at you without it knowing that it's you. Like that's my view anyway.
Thanks for that, Cloud. Harini, you had your hand, and then Kathy, you can go after Harini.
Yeah. So Angelo, that was an incredible question. Mainly because it leads into my personal description of what I believe God to be. In my initial definition of what I said God was, I talked about being free of attributes. They refer to this as nirguna, or free of descriptors. And the other thing that I believe that God, what the nature of God consists of, is that God is entirely unintentional. And acts of God or forces of God or forces of creation are entirely random and unintentional. That is my personal opinion. I haven't read of anything that articulates. I haven't read any of the philosophers who have the same worldview as this one. So I think this is something that I personally believe in. And what I mean by unintentional is that when Angelo asked the question, if God is all-knowing, all-powerful, why do we exist? Why are we being subjected to this ordeal of having to learn God or seek God? Why do birds fly? Why do the oceans move according to the lunar pull and the tides and everything? And I think that I guess the acts of God or the acts of creation are entirely random, and that's one of the, I guess, descriptors of God. You can't perceive it, you can't predict what it's going to perform. We don't know in what ways it's capable of acting. God exists merely to express itself, like what Cloud said earlier.
Yeah.
Entirely unintentional is my personal definition of God. So.
And Kathy, do you wanted to speak? And then after you, Kathy, we might go to the audience for Q&A because we are almost at time.
Okay, yes. I was going to say to know God is to know thyself. So you've got your higher self as well as the ego. And ego, if you break that down, is edging out God. So that's the low vibrational side of yourself. So once you break that down, you find yourself with God.
Mm.
Thank you so much for all those answers. They are very, very meaningful for me. Like I always wondered that, and I think that is like a mystery for me. Obviously, there are all these possible questions, but sometimes I also think that maybe there is a reason beyond reasoning. Like we put all this in the way how we capture reality, and reasoning is a way how we explain things. Probably there is something that even goes beyond reason that actually explains that.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I think that it exists merely to exist. There is no rational explanation to it. It is just in the nature of God to be completely erratic, completely random. That's what, the scientists often talk about in, the case of, entropy and how, particles move. It's entirely random and cannot be estimated or calculated or discerned. So
Just a quick one, if that's okay. I was going to say there's like two types of science, and I'm just going to leave that with everyone to do their own research. I'm just being a bit cheeky.
Sure. I think I get what you're saying. All right,
Yes.
wonderful. Well, this is lovely. We will have closing statements, but before we do closing statements, did anyone from the audience have any questions or comments? Michael's been putting some beautiful things in the chat, which is very interesting, but I just wanted to open it up. And maybe while we're waiting for people, if they were formulating something to say, if you wanted to go back and read through Michael's comments as well, just take a moment.
Sorry, wait, did Michael have a question?
Michael's put just a couple of thoughts in the chat. And I
Yeah,
think
I
they're
saw,
really
but there's so much. So, Michael, do you have
can't see the
anything that
chat.
you're on the edge of your seat where you want to ask?
Sorry for that, guys.
No, it's
No,
wonderful. Yeah,
no. I just wrote as soon as something came up.
it's
Good.
fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't see the chat, so I'm not sure it's not showing on my phone.
Same.
So, yeah.
Sorry, so what are we responding to? The most recent one?
Well, it's not necessarily needing to respond. You can if you like, but I was just giving
Oh,
everyone
okay.
a moment to read Michael's comments. I know some people can't access them, and also give just a moment if anyone from the audience wanted to jump in with a final comment or question, and then I'll just give a minute, and then we'll go to our closing statements. Harini, I did see your hand go up.
Yeah, just to, I think Michael's comment about, gods having descriptors such as masculine and feminine is very interesting because while, we, in this sort of debate structure, we're talking about the most ultimate of gods, gods with the big G, right? And I think it's also important to talk about people's personal relationships with God and how God interacts with people on like a more mundane level. Because, like, for example, in history, if you're a farmer and you're looking up into the sky and rain is what provides for you, that is your God. You study the patterns of rain and therefore you know your God, right? So God isn't something that's restricted to, higher levels of discussion and philosophy, but it's more of like a personal interpretation of what you, I guess, like interact with on like a day-to-day basis. So, like when you do look at history, a lot of, I guess, like, um, like gods that are based on nature, gods that are based on circumstance and profession are very common in a lot of those older religions, like, in the Greek religion, in the Egyptian religion, in Hinduism, which is one of the last pagan religions left. And yeah, you can see proof that God is entirely personal, which is exactly why we have so many different gods in Hinduism, right? Because it's the idea that God is personal and you can have your favorite God and you can engage with God on your own terms. So.
Yeah, that's a
Thanks
good
for
one.
that,
Yeah,
Harini. Yeah, that's great.
I like that.
Malik, I
Yeah.
saw your hand. Yes.
Yeah, just with regards to the earlier comment, Michael, in most moral slash ethical systems, intention is required for something to be a moral action or not. So we don't use like what's called non-intentful actions in moral questioning. If you were to, it would be an ultra moral objectivist claim because you'll be fundamentally saying that even truth and good and bad are baked into the fabric of the universe. So, yeah.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah,
Mhm.
go ahead, Michael. It's great.
So the perfect thing with that would just be if you just look at the different religions' morality, they don't line up. Like in Islam, you're instructed to kill. You're actually instructed to kill. Whereas one of the Ten Commandments is do not kill. So something as basic as that. Forget intentions, forget the thoughts in the moment. The actual action, the objective action is completely different. So there's different subjective morality based on which religion and which God you follow.
That's why we don't use religion to determine objective truth, right? Scripture is a very bad source to determine morality. We use reason. So, um,
I
I
would say
hear
we
you.
use discernment. I
But
would
that is
up you. I'd say we
morality.
use discernment, not reason.
And I think a lot of people's reasoning actually stems from religiosity. When you look
Yeah.
around the world and when you look at, like how Catholic reasoning comes through, how Catholic morality is, created, it's through, what you learn in church. It's through, whether or not how church going you are, how religious you are. And like for the vast majority of people, morality is informed by religion. So I think it's quite you can't I don't think you can separate reason from religiosity. Not religion, but
Every
religiosity in particular. So,
every claim that has an argument for it, so a set of premises and then a conclusion, has to be taken on its own merit. Any investigation into what came prior to that is fallacious. So if someone is Muslim and they're talking to me about morality, I don't care that he's Muslim. I only care about the very precise things that he's saying. Otherwise, then we just open ourselves up to prejudice.
no, but it does matter. Especially like okay, so I think we like strain away from the topic a little bit, but
Mhm.
I do think that especially when there's nuance involved, if your reasoning and if your morality is formed by bigotry and prejudice, then that's what it is. And I think it'll be quite, I guess it'll be remiss of us to ignore where that comes from. And you need to like look at things in like a holistic sort of fashion, and you can't boil things down to its individuality. While it can be helpful in certain contexts, in certain scientific contexts especially, I think that when you think about someone who is a Muslim who has certain value systems, it's important to consider that he is a Muslim and what that has had an effect. I mean, what effect that has had on him.
This is
And
why I
what
love AI. I love AI so much because now we can just engage in ideas as ideas and we don't have to worry about a human behind it.
Yeah,
All
but
right,
all
guys,
the
we're
data
gonna
all the data that's fed through into AI is biased. It comes from certain sources,
Well,
and
sorry.
AI is
you
biased by
Stop,
missed
stop.
you missed our first chat, Harini, where we did the AI chat. Sorry to cut our first debate, I mean, where we had a debate about AI. Sorry to cut everyone off. I just am really conscious of the time that we have gone over 9:30, and I know that we want to really try to stick to schedule. So I'd like to just quickly flick through and give everyone a final closing statement, and then we might wrap up, and we can continue these discussions in the next debate, which is going to be really exciting. But Cloud, did you want to start us off with your final words, final comments, anything that you're really itching to say before we go?
Yeah, I love the description that the smartest man on earth with the IQ of 240 something plus or whatever has discerned from his idea of what God is, and he's a believer in God. And I'll just end on this, where he says that God is a function of the universe as much as the moment that leads to the next moment cannot exist without a binding agent. It would simply be static without God. So God is not interfering so much as he's kind of synthesizing every moment to flow in any direction that it chooses to. It is simply the binding force that brings everyone together, is everything, and is also separate in that same light by moments of existence and being.
Thanks, Cloud. Kathy, did you have anything final you'd like to add?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for having this discussion, and that's it. Yeah, universal love, oneness. Thank you.
Malik?
Guys, it was great to chat with everyone. I have a habit of playing devil's advocate, so half of the positions I argue for, I just argue on technicality. But Angelo, it was good hearing from you. I think we need to talk a little bit more about your positions because you were asking some good questions, but I want to know more about what you think. And lovely to meet Cloud and Harini and is it Kathy?
Yes,
Kathy,
okay,
yeah, yeah.
okay, yeah.
Lovely to meet all three of you, and I'd be keen to talk to you guys more in the future. So, especially you, Harini, with our next one, which is East versus West. I think you have an interesting perspective, a nuanced perspective. So, yeah, I just want to say that one last thing is that one alternative position that I've heard that I found very interesting is that God is not something complex, but it's something simple. And there's at least one philosopher that posited that God might have been the idea of good itself. The idea of good itself is something that exceeds the birth of the universe. And when this is why the conversation morality is so important. So I find that interesting. And yeah.
Thanks, Malik. Harini?
Yeah, so I guess I'll just sum up a lot of my stances and my arguments today. So I started off by asserting that God was formless, free of attributes, and transcends physical measures. And I also, I guess, sort of urged everyone to think about the fact, and also, I guess, contemplate on my own definition of God being unintentional and irrational. God exists merely to exist. God does because that's what God does. There is no reason behind what God does. So therefore, any notion of what good or bad is entirely like redundant because God has no perception of what is right and what is wrong. It is simply a force that exists. And I also believe that on like a personal level, I think that a relationship with God should be tailored to your particular circumstances. It should always be personal, and all sorts of like connection with God on a personal level is what we've followed for in history. And I think that that's like a good starting point to get into spirituality and to connect with God. So.
Thank you, Harini. Angelo, lucky last. You've muted. You need to unmute.
Yes. Uh, just want to express, like my gratitude to everyone. I think that is great, like to hear all those different ideas, and it just gives me, like food for thought, and I learn from all what you guys say. I think that yeah, it's fantastic. I think that this topic is hard, like it's very hard, like to define what God is, and I quite align with actually every like argument made here by each of you. I think that actually, like when I speak, when I think about God, I think that all those things fit into that definition of God. But at the same time, I think that there are two ways of looking for God. Like there is one that is through our minds, when we try to define God and to give like some attributes and concepts to God, and there is another one that is through intuition. And I think that through intuition, you actually find that God is mysterious in all the sense. And the only way to get to God is actually through that mystery of just feeling and experiencing reality.
It's beautiful.
Can I say something quickly? I was just about to say, do you believe in miracles? And you mentioned mystery, so that was cool.
I think that this reality, or what we see in front of our eyes and inside, is just a miracle itself.
Exactly. Yes, I love that.
Well, what a lovely place to end on. Leo, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I think that I need to understand what is the definition of miracle. Because, it's maybe every day we wake up, we can breathe, we can have a life, is already a miracle. So what is the definition of miracle? Like something that we expect or something that we hope
No.
for?
I wouldn't say to expect it, because like if expecting it, you're forcing it. And like to believe it, to believe in miracles is like just for example, if I'm walking down the street and I see like this beautiful feather, and it's a colorful one, I feel like that's something beautiful in itself. Like that, I feel like that's something that's a miracle in itself. And then what you see around you is like you've got the breath of air, you got your water to nurture you, you got your fire to feed, like to cook you a nice meal and warm you up, and that's what I would call a miracle.
Your
Yeah.
definition of
It's along the
miracle.
line with gratitude, I think.
Yeah, gratitude. Yes.
So I guess your definition of a miracle is something that is, transcendental. So you're looking for signs of transcending what is mundane and transcending what is regular, and seeing bits of what is unnatural in everyday life. You're looking for signs of that.
Like, I don't look for it, I just see it. Like when I see it, like today I had really good one. I had like a message, like a card that came and said have a lovely day, and it was not even, it was like it was still in its package. And I was like, come on, that has to be a message from God or something, like, or from my guide. So I thought that was amazing. Like I always seem to see the little things like that, and that makes my day.
That's really lovely. I think
like
that's
seriously, that happened today. It was like funny. And it
Well,
has a
thank
picture of a bicycle and a little yellow bird. So it was like really cool.
That's really
Yeah.
wholesome, Kathy. Well, thank you everyone so much for participating today. There was some tension, there was some beautiful words spoken. I really appreciate everyone putting forward their arguments. It makes for a great debate when there's people who are disagreeing. So thank you all for being here. And thank you for our audience members as well. And Malik, did you want to quickly introduce what our next debate is going to be? And
Yes. And our maybe next one after that, after today, Jesus Christ. I think we might need to do a morality one, objective versus subjective. That'll be what's that, number 4, I reckon. But the next one next month will be a debate between East and Western mindsets. So I think it'll be quite interesting. I think it's there was a little bit of that underneath this conversation of a difference in Western ways of thinking and Eastern ways of thinking. So we'll probably give a more refined and precise kind of question about what we're going to be debating. But we obviously we'll invite you guys. We might do a set number of people next time. We'll see. But yeah, thank you all for joining. It's been incredible.
Thank you.
well, have a lovely night. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
you.
Bye. Good
everyone.
night.